Hello, Readily friends! I wanted to sit down today and talk about one question that I have gotten a lot over the past couple of days. It makes, I seriously got 12 questions, all worded differently, but all about the same subject. So it gives me the faint feeling that either A, a bunch of you are just mentally synchronized, or two, someone made a post on a forum or some sort of blog and everyone's talking about this. So let's dive right in. What is this question? Again, they were all worded differently, slightly differently, but it all echoes with the same idea. I was told that I am a bad writer if I am not looking for flaws in my writing. What do you think about this, Max? Before we go any further, allow me to give you the formal disclaimer and remind you all that the following is merely just my opinion, my advice, and what worked for me. Don't take it as gospel, take it instead as a collection of tools which you can play with, modify, and tune to whatever works for you. That being said, I personally can't stand writing advice that tells people what not to do and often feels like it's attacking one particular writer type or writing style, instead of inspiring people to do the right thing. There are a lot of things that bother me about that statement, tons of them, but I'm not gonna spend this entire video breaking it down. Instead, let's focus on moving forward. Allow me to rephrase this piece of advice, okay? If you're not looking for flaws in your writing, you're a bad writer. Let's turn that around to being critical of your writing will allow you to keep growing and improving as a writer. Wow, it actually feels like advice, not like a person pointing at you telling you that you are doing it wrong and that you're not a writer because you're not doing what they want you to do. The thing about advice is this, okay? All advice is biased because it's based on someone's opinion and experience and the way they've gone about doing things. You can beware of people who try to claim that their advice is ultimate. In this channel and in my blog that I've been running for 3 years, I have never claimed that my opinion is ultimate. It is simply just what worked for me. I don't want you to think that my way is the right way. I want to show you that there are multiple ways to get out of this forest, and you can make your own path. Again, be careful of paying too much attention to anyone who claims that their way of doing things is the right way. I often find that that is not true. Why? Because we're all different people with different background, and we cannot possibly expect one single method to work for everyone, especially in the medium of writing where everything is up in the air. Now, what about the statement? What about this rebuilt statement that I have for you? I think that it is actually sound. I believe that writers should be able to look at their writing objectively and to continuously seek to get better. That being said, the original statement had this implication that if you are not effectively looking for things that are wrong in your writing, you are a bad person. I could not disagree more. See, I believe you should be critical of your writing, but not all the time. Again, different tools for different jobs. I believe that there are 3 phases to writing a book. There is the first draft, in which your mission is to write the book. There is the cool down period, in which your job is to not look at the story for several weeks, to let it cool down, to let yourself forget about it, so when you go into step 3, the editing phase, you're able to clean it up as though it was somebody else's writing, as though you found it, as though it's not yours. You disconnect yourself from the writing, you gain distance, and then you're able to look at it objectively. Again, different tools for different jobs. During the first draft, your job is just to write. During the waiting time, your job is just to wait and not look at the story. And it is then during the revision draft that it is your job to look at the story critically, objectively. I think that the statement that was previously said is problematic because it gets in the way of new writers. It tries to nail in their mind that they should be looking for errors every other sentence and every time they're writing, and that's just not effective. Why? Because during the first draft, your job is to write the book, to get it done, to get it out, and to get it finished. And you can't do that if you're looking for mistakes. And really, it's not even effective because 1, it's gonna take you longer to get the book done, and 2, there's an entire phase, the longest phase of production, dedicated to finding the mistakes in your writing. Yes, there are mistakes in your writing, and your writing is not perfect. Even after the 2nd book, or the 10th book in my case, there is going to be always mistakes, little things that we miss because we are human beings who make mistakes. But the time to look for those is not in the first draft or in the waiting period. Again, different tools for different jobs. So let me tell you what I think and what I have found works for me. I believe that you should look at your work critically and you should look for problems in your writing, such as particular flaws of character or particular flaws in the way that you create the narration, such as repetitive phrases. But I think the time for that is not while you're in the middle of writing or while you're waiting to separate yourself from the novel. Again, there are 3 phases to writing a book. When you actually write it in the first draft, while you have it sitting down on the side, waiting for yourself to forget about that book so you can come back and edit it during the 3rd phase. I believe that the critical eye and the critical mind have a place only in the 3rd phase, when you have brought back the book, when it's been weeks since the last time you looked at it, when you have almost forgotten about the book itself. You pick it up again, you open it up, and you will be able to read it as though it was somebody else's work. And you are going to be able to see through your mistakes, through the patterns, through the missing words, and through the misspellings. Why? Because you have had distance. The worst thing you want to do is to be in the middle of writing a book and be stopping yourself halfway through every sentence because you're wondering, wait a second, is this good? Is this bad? Am I repeating myself too much? What, do I have to redo this again? No. What you want to do during the first draft is just write the book. Seriously, getting the book done, the first draft, is probably the hardest step along the way because everything is against you. Your self-doubts, time, the real world, and everything else. But once you have that done, and you have waited a little while, and you can get some distance from it, and then you can come back to the book 3-4 weeks later, pick it up again, and actually be able to see through those mistakes, to be able to see through the writing because you have gained distance. And I know that I keep saying that because it's true, it worked for me. Why? Because I have found that while you're in the middle of writing, you grow attached to your writing, and especially if you wrote something during the months of NaNoWriMo where a word count is really meaningful, you may find yourself attached to a particular handful of phrases, or be stern against the idea of chopping away words that you worked so hard to get. And that mentality is problematic to the revision process because ultimately those words don't matter. A handful of words are not worth leaving your story, are not worth gambling your entire story for. That is why the revision draft is mostly about cutting and rephrasing and fixing. Once again, in summary, do I believe you should be critical of your writing? Absolutely. You should seek to continue growing as a person, trying out new things, and to continue improving your writing by reading and learning from different sources and learning the different styles of the other writers around you. The key to being critical about your own work is not how, but when. I personally believe that if you wait after you have written the book, and after a long time has passed, 3 to 4 weeks at the very least, I recommend you write something else in between projects as though to keep yourself from wondering about a story. Once you've had that time and all of those things have passed, when you come back to pick up the book, you will see the mistakes. Why? Because you've gained distance. You are no longer the person who wrote that book. Time has passed, you're no longer attached to those words, and you can come in with a chainsaw and start chopping away the things that don't belong there. Does it sound terrifying? Does it sound awful? That's what revision is though. And as I've said a million times in the past, the goal of revision is to create the best story possible, and I will never allow a handful of words to keep me from creating the best story possible. So, if you are currently writing a story, keep writing. If you are waiting for a story on cooldown, have another cup of tea. Read another chapter of another book and relax. But if you are revising your story right now, be critical, be ruthless, be reckless, and chop away all of those things that don't belong. Why do we do this? Why do we put ourselves through the pain of the first draft and the waiting and the revision? Because we want to tell the best stories possible. Now for further reading, if you would like even more information on revision, I wrote a really good article on my top 5 tips for revision. There should be a link to it in the description below. You can go there and check it out. It's kind of an older post from my blog, but all of those tips are still echoing as loudly now as they did then. They are the rules by which I revise a book. I hope this helps. I hope that if anything, this has shown you that there is another way to do things. And remember to be wary of people who sell their opinion and their advice as ultimate. There is no ultimate advice because in writing anything is possible and you can write your own way out of the forest, okay? As always, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe if you would like more. And if you would like even more writerly content, you can head over to my official writing blog over at maxkieran.tumblr.com. Thank you for watching, thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me, and I hope to be seeing you soon. Mwah! I do realize that there's a little bit of irony in the fact that I told you that you should be wary of people who claim their advice is ultimate, because it's basically telling you what not to do. So instead, I'm going to turn that around and tell you what you should do. Seek the advice of people who do not claim their advice is ultimate. Seek the advice of people who show humility in their advice and who accept and encourage you to seek your own way to do about doing things. That's what I believe.